In last week's episode of the Monday Morning Manager, we started talking about some of the different types of biases that impact our decision making, and those come in at an unconscious level. This week, we're going to be expanding on those, and we're going to be talking about even more of the ones that we see both in the workplace and in our personal lives. One of the most common biases we see in both personal and professional life is the sunk cost fallacy. We make the decision to stick with something, even if we're questioning whether it's right or wrong, because of the amount of time or money that we've already invested into the situation to begin with. People convince themselves that they just have to stay with a career or in a relationship because of the time that they've already spent on it. If they have a car that they're already having trouble with, they sit there and look at the fact that they've already spent $10,000 on repairs, and hopefully that's over. Businesses will stick with providers or software because that's what we've always used rather than looking at whether it meets their current needs. And that's the sunk cost fallacy. Authority bias creeps into a lot of decisions as well. When we're talking about the workplace, more weight is given to your title than your level of knowledge about the situation. If you're a vice president, oh, well, they must have a very important decision. In day to day life, we believe someone is an expert on something because they have a doctorate degree sometimes, even though their doctorate degree has absolutely nothing with the question at hand. We just assume if they went through the trouble and the time to get a doctorate, they just must be intelligent. A third thing that we see very often is the recency bias. The recency bias deals with the fact that the most recent decision, the most recent problem that we're dealing with, is the most important one. It's one of the reasons that you see current era athletes are the greatest in history, because we're only thinking about the impact that we saw recently from them on the field. And we can't imagine what these people from the 1960s and 70s, 80s were able to achieve and what they were able to perform. That's the reason for the discussion about who's the greatest of all time, LeBron or Michael Jordan. It depends on the era that you're going through and taking a look at. Another situation where we see the recency bias is even in regards to the weather. The weather that we're dealing with today is the absolute hottest weather or the coldest weather that we've ever run across, except it's not. It's just what we're having to deal with in the current situation. And when we're talking about the recency bias, the current situation that we are dealing with becomes the most important one until another one arrives. That's just a few of the biases we're going to be talking about this week. I hope you'll join me to learn more. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my authority bias and say it's in your best interest to go ahead and like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of these important conversations. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have an amazing start to your week.